Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. 7 o'clock. I'll call this regular meeting to order. If you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just in case anybody's worried, Dave is just still in Hawaii in a better place than us. And I know that we have some weather impending supposedly this after or later this evening. So we'll try to be as efficient with our time and communication this evening as possible. A couple of folks joining us tonight, Holly and Pete, as well as some committee members here. So we'll go ahead and jump into this. Pete, I have you up first. I know one of the big things that we want to talk about tonight are the updates and proposed changes to some 208 or sewer agreements across the county. So I'm looking forward to getting your input on that.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I would start off with, I don't know, you guys have questions? I mean, um,
Yeah, I'll kind of kick it off. So I know that I think the part of it that impacts us is relatively minor, right? We're specifically looking at that northwest corner of the township.
correct.
And, there's bigger changes, some bigger conversation going on across Delaware County in general. But for us, um, how we're trying to anticipate how this might affect work or conversation that has already started with the village, with Galena. And so in conversation, what we would love to do is for the EPA to adopt essentially a first come first served mentality as far as we can service these areas. I know traditionally that is not how the 208s work.
Correct.
I also know that there are other municipalities and bodies within Delaware County, with other townships, so on and so forth, that have taken one way or the other on this. So I think probably what I'd like to hear from you, if that's okay, is probably just a breakdown of how the EPA might let this work, what are our chances of kind of getting our way on this, and then how can we negatively impact some of our neighbors.
So I think globally, I think globally, the answer is different for everybody, in my opinion. I don't think there's like a one size fits all when you're looking at a FPA, a facilities planning area, if our township, I typically look at two things. I look at whoever is going to be designated, what is my ability to restrict annexation? And you know, that just depends. Like I said, everybody's different. It depends on where you're at. Obviously, the county, if the county were the FPA, um, they're not going to annex you, right? I mean, that much is clear. Uh, the other issue that I typically look at is feasibility, right? And I am not an engineer. I don't play one, but that is also equally important to me as a township. Who realistically has the capability to provide the utilities in a timely and cost-effective manner? So those are really the two things that I would look at. And obviously, you guys are aware that there are certain things that you could do to prevent annexation. One of those is developing an agreement that would provide for no annexation. So if Glenn were to be awarded part of their FTA or facilities planning area, I, I would want to make sure that there's no annexation provision. So you check that. I think at the end of the day, you can check the annexation box. To me, it's really who I believe is going to provide a cost. And I don't know down in this area, whether that be Galena or the county, that would lay out exactly what it is where it's gonna happen, how it's gonna happen, how are we gonna fund it through that sort of development incentives. That would be my perspective, what I
So I want to let John speak to this here in a minute because he's well versed. Can't dig into the parts a little bit, but I want to specifically talk a little bit more about the this initiative at work that sparks interest right now. I know that the county, the Delco, or the county that asked the prosecutor's office to formulate this response to the EPA.
The county.
Okay.
Well, the county along with, the sewer department, right?
Okay, so they asked the prosecutor's office to come up with a resolution that'll be going to the commissioners. And of the four main points that they hint on, and I'm quoting from their document here: infringe on private property rights by effectively forcing private property owners to bargain for essential sanitary sewer service through annexation or increased rates under the threat of indefinite delays in development. So if I'm correct, like in the hypothesis or in the scenario of this northwest corner of the township, right? If say we create an economic agreement with Galena, we have a no annexation clause in there, nothing to be concerned about.
Right.
You say the 208 doesn't go forward as proposed, and that remains in its current state, which the current state is what? Is that technically in the county's 208?
Well, it's not in the county still, it's just open.
Kind of no man's land, right? So
Correct.
it is currently first come, first served.
Correct.
And so if someone comes into that corner of the township and they need sewer services that the township cannot currently provide to them, their options would be to seek it, right?
Yep.
The closest place they could seek it from is Galena, right?
Correct.
Any reason at that time we couldn't just figure out a economic development with Galena and continue to service that and that continue to be Harlem Township? Why does it force annexation like this item says?
Well, so that depends upon the policy of the municipal corporation.
Okay.
So for many years, the city of Columbus, if you want our utilities, our policy is you have to annex.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but Ashley, are you able to put those maps up? I know that the TVs are going crazy right now, which is a whole nother thing to talk about, but I would love to be able to put that map up, specifically map 21
But nothing really force. It's just the policy of the municipal corporation. And then, with Columbus, a lot of their suburban contracts that Columbus has, requires the suburbs to, requires property owners to annex into, whether it was, New Albany or anybody else, Dublin requires them to annex in order to receive those utilities as well.
Okay.
But it's a policy decision, right? So,
can you go forward one page in that PDF?
but nothing would prohibit you at that time. That would probably just be more of a
That one right there for a second.
negotiating, or whether or not you thought you maybe lose some sort of leverage
Mhm.
at that point. Because if I can, if I'm a municipal corporation and the property is contiguous, what's my incentive to?
So for point of reference, right, this whole, for those of us that can see the map up on the TV, right, that the outer red line is essentially the county here, and the bottom right-hand corner,
Yep.
Harlem Township. There's a kind of wedge, the bottom half of the township more or less is cut off.
Yep.
And that is the Columbus Regional 208, right? So Columbus has rights to service that area,
Yep.
which we all know, right? They're building a huge sewer in that corner.
Yep.
So that's not new, but that's Harlem Township land. So anybody in that area that takes advantage of, overlays or anything like that, they don't have to annex to Columbus to be able to use that, correct? So for us to enable that northwest corner, that tiny little one, you can move to that other one that I identified too. So what's it, like 12-4, I think, or 21-4. Yeah, 21-4. A zoom in of our little corner of paradise here. Yep. So, that section right there, be it Galena or be it Delco or, you know, Marion Municipal Services, and that's a joke, but anybody, it doesn't force annexation.
In and of itself, no.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I wasn't
You're-
missing anything.
You're correct.
John, you have anything on
When the EPA had their meeting a couple of weeks ago, they reminded us that this 208 had not been updated since 2006.
Hmm.
But then they said, when it is updated this year, that it is a living document, that it is not sealing something in stone for the next 10 or 20 years. And that we should consider it to be thus and not feel that we are locked into whatever decision is made about that northwest quadrant or territory in Harlem Township. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a living document and there you have the ability to amend it. Now, there is a process to do that. Absolutely. And then there have on occasion been circumstances where somebody is able to get utilities and they seek a PTI through EPA and they have that ability to grant it as well, even though it may not particularly line up with an FPA. But it's all fact dependent, but you're absolutely right. It is a living, breathing document. It doesn't prohibit you from seeking to modify it. It doesn't prohibit you from working with other governmental entities through agreements.
And this was their point that
Yes.
we don't need to feel pressure to either get a deal done quickly now or not, because this is a living document. And their point was you should feel free to go ahead and make agreements, and those agreements would supersede whatever conclusions are reached on this 208 at this point in time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that.
And then should the EPA be transparent with all of the municipalities about the capabilities that these providers have, both the mechanical capabilities, but also their financial ability to actually put in the infrastructure they say they can.
Right.
How can the EPA make a decision that that area should be served by Galena without being transparent about Galena's capability, both financially and mechanically, to actually serve that area?
That's a question I would want to know. And I think you see, and I think Holly can attest to this, you're seeing a lot of this in Licking County. I mean, a lot of it, where various entities are challenging somebody else's ability as part of this process to actually provide the service. Yeah, I would want to know. I mean, and look, I've got clients that have hired engineering firms that have provided specialize in utilities to work with neighboring municipal corporations to actually come up with that plan, right? And show that it is or it isn't, depending on, what side of the fence you're on in Licking County. But yeah, and those things have been submitted to the Ohio EPA as part of this process. And whether it's through public comment or written comment.
My understanding is that this is kind of the first go around with the EPA looking at a county in modifying a 208 plan. And it seems it's not arbitrary, but it seems heavy-handed to make a decision without transparency to the entities that are then supposed to abide by that decision. Is there a legal argument to be made there that there should be transparency?
Well, I obviously, I'm a huge fan of transparency, right? But whether or not they're going to agree with that, I don't know. I think there should be. But again, once again, I would want to know, right? I mean, if I am going to work with somebody, I want to know that they actually have the ability to provide the utilities in a timely and cost-effective manner, or at least having some general idea as to what that's going to look like, right? Like I said, that, you know, those are the two big boxes that I see. I see the annexation box and I see who can I get the utilities from under those circumstances.
And can you just speak to why the EPA would be reticent to have an area that could be dual serviced in the future? And are there other areas in Delaware County or anywhere else where there are dual service areas?
Well, I think it goes back to them just simply saying, not designating an area in FPA, right? And it's whoever can get there.
And in that case, Delaware argues that they have the legal right to serve any unincorporated area within Delaware County. That's their argument.
Well, I think they would probably have the statutory authority to do that. But
Yeah.
once again, the FPA, if it's designated somebody else, but yeah, no, I mean, I don't dispute that the county can, particularly in an area that's not FPA, or if they don't have an agreement with a municipal corporation, then yeah, I think they can. I think they have that authority to serve it right now. I'm trying to think. I think that's what you're seeing a lot. Again, in Licking County too. You have areas that have not that don't have an FPA, and everybody is seeking to make it their FPA. You know, whether that's potentially Johnstown or they changed their name, and I keep wanting to say Southwest Licking Rural Water District.
Do you mean they're going to the EPA and asking them to?
Well, yeah, they're what they're doing is these areas that there has been historically no FPA assigned. Everybody is wanting now to mark their territory, and I think that's really what this comes down to. It's everybody wanting to mark their territory. Yep. And that's what I was mentioning earlier. You have a lot of entities that are fact checking, whatever you want to call it, someone else's ability to actually provide those utilities. Do they have the wherewithal?
But the
And if
bottom
they
line,
don't, then they're asking the EPA to make that part of their FPA.
okay.
Yep.
But the bottom line for us is that we're not really tying our hands one way or the other. There's a lot of wiggle room here.
There is. I mean, if I were to, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, but if I were to enter into some sort of agreement with the municipal partner or whoever, and I've not done this, but I would probably want a escape hatch as part of that agreement, where I have the ability to go to somebody else to provide those utilities, or they would agree to cooperate in on an agreement with another provider if they can't provide it in a timely manner. I mean, I would want to protect myself, absolutely, because there's a lot of unknown. And I think part of that unknown is that we don't have all the facts from an engineering and financial standpoint. So
Is it possible to demand that the EPA produce those facts or no?
produce.
The capability that, for instance, a Galena has to,
Has Galena given it to them?
I don't know, has the EPA
I don't know.
asked?
I don't know.
But I would assume we would expect that sort of information prior to going into any sort of economic relationship.
There said that he did give that to the EPA.
Yeah.
I have not seen it. I did talk to his engineer. I know the engineering's good.
Yeah.
The financial, I haven't gotten into. He talked to the EPA. Holly and I, we just had a basic draft, to start working with them, and we didn't get into the financials. The big question was, can they physically and with their plant and that type of thing do it? So, to be honest, I haven't seen the financials, but I know from conversation with him, he did turn the engineering and whatever financials they were looking for in order to put him in the area into that. He did provide that to them. Whether we can call him and get that from him, I would assume we can. Everything got sort of rushed and we really never got to sit down and go over a lot of this with him. So, but like I said, conversation, I know the engineering went to EPA. The financial, I don't know what he gave him. We could call and find out. We could ask for it.
I think that it's fair,
I do.
Pete, that we should not hear by word of mouth these two items, but that we should see chapter and verse. I think that's a fair request. And not in an adversarial kind of way, but just to make a wise decision, because this decision is not for this generation of trustees. This is going to impact future generations. We don't want to tie their hands, which the EPA is kind of assuring us it won't tie our hands, but we want to do things well here so that it's a smoother process down
It
the
doesn't
road.
tie your hands, but it does make things harder.
Yeah, it just complicates things
Yeah,
if we
it
don't
does.
make a good decision
Right.
now with the most information that we can get.
I guess just a couple of things else for you, Pete, on this on this. The county's obviously going to a lot of effort here working with the prosecutor's office to create
And I
a
haven't seen
legitimate
that document.
opposition resolution.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know who might have the better answer for this, you, Lisa, maybe even Holly. I believe it is this board's opinion that we adopt a preference to a first come, first served sort of scenario.
Yes.
And I don't know that if it is required of us to pass a resolution stating that fact, nor do I know if we need to get the prosecutor's office to create that resolution for us, or if we can just send a letter to the EPA stating our intent.
So what I would do is, and I do have some clients, not in Delaware County, that have stated their preferences of first come, first served.
Mhm.
And you can either do a resolution or you can do a letter, but I would have the board approve the letter during a public meeting and authorize the chair or all three of you to execute it.
Well, lucky for us, it's on the agenda tonight, so
Yeah.
we'll cover that a little
And I
bit
think
later.
that's fine.
And-
Absolutely.
And just for the public record, we do not want to alienate the village of Galena.
Yeah.
We hope to work with the village of Galena.
Yeah, they're your neighbor.
Absolutely. And in all likelihood, that agreement that is reached with them will be the compelling agreement that kind of charts our course in that neck of the woods. So the intent is not to alienate them. It's simply to put the township in the best position going forward with the most information that we have.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that at all. Yeah, I think that's wise.
Jim or Holly, did either of you have anything else on this topic?
Leaving options open, I think are in the best interest for the township. And that, when I talked to Tiffany, going up Harlem Road isn't a problem. She said the biggest concern with their side of things is getting across Duncan Run to get up there. But on the flip side, I don't know the financial situation of Galena to actually service that area, and I would hate for that to be identified there. And you be locked into that, and then Delaware County be able to get there first, so a first come, first served makes more sense in my mind.
Do you have anything?
I think Pete covered most of it. I think the option of first come, first serve, we would have to work with Galena. I had 3 conversations with Tiffany, and they have no plans to service that area right now or in the near future. Also, I talked to Tracy Davies, and they do not oppose us if we have somebody else first. The Delaware County will not oppose, and we're specifically talking that Trenton Road area.
Right.
So what's happening is this whole flux as it came to light is Delaware County's putting this mandate on the whole county, all these different areas and stuff, and all we're concerned about is Galena or the Trenton Road area.
Right.
That little piece, I don't think they're worried about us using Galena. They're worried about territories being lost to Delaware County. So on a first come, first served basis, if Galena will go along with it, I don't see a problem. And I think Pete covered it very well.
The only other thing I was going to ask, just for opinion, I think I know the answer of this, but is there any cause for concern given the location of the proposed Sunbury FPA just to the north of the area?
Yes,
Okay.
They're being aggressive.
very.
They have quite an appetite for land at this moment, right? We know the next 10 years in that area are going to look a little bit different. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, they,
We
yeah,
were,
from a real estate viewpoint, there are areas that they have not taken yet in annexation that is surprising and will be annexed.
yeah,
It's just a matter, Pete's agreeing with me, it's just, when, from the real estate viewpoint, you look at their map and it didn't make any sense. They're going to continue on.
And I don't mean to drag the conversation out unnecessarily, but in this hypothetical, right, Pete, say for example, the 208 passes as is proposed. Sunbury tries to go down into what is proposed as the Galena 208. Would they be able to do that? Who would be the defense? How would they get approval to?
yeah. So
Go
that
into
would, so ultimately that would fall back in the lap of the Ohio EPA, and that's where you get into the PTI.
Okay,
And like I said, you may see Galena, or if it's in somebody else's FPA, challenge that PTI.
got it.
Remind me of the acronym of PTI.
Permit to install.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything else on this?
No.
Okay. Pete, I think we got something else for you a little bit later, but
Okay.
well, our chiefs have been waiting patiently. So we'll let them take control of the meeting for a little while.
Just a few quick things here. Resolution 25-219-01, accept resignation of part-time firefighter Nicholas Latoma.
And these are all roll call. Yep, so do we need roll call on these personnel changes?
You probably should.
I would move to approve resolution 02191T-001.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Holiday?
Aye.
Aye.
02, accept resignation of part-time firefighter Lucas Sastro.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ashley.
Holiday?
Aye.
Aye.
03, approve and accept resignation of part-time firefighter Kira Mentor.
So moved.
Second.
Holiday?
Aye.
Aye.
4, 5, and 6 are not necessary because of 1, 2, and 3. 07, approval to remove part-time firefighter Jordan Simpson Harrison from the roster.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Holiday?
Aye.
08, approval to hire part-time firefighter McGuire George.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call that.
We'll roll call that.
Holiday?
Aye.
Aye.
And 09, approval to hire part-time firefighter Jesse Masters.
So moved.
Second.
Holiday?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Anything else going on with you
You want to do it now real quick?
while you're talking?
Okay, yeah, sure. You see the final appropriation budget that also that he has for coming up here, you'll see that we've added $55,000 to our EMS fund. The township started billing 3 EMS in 22, 21, 22. And as we have grown and as we have gotten more runs, it's a no cost to the resident from, we don't hard bill a resident, so whatever the insurance company pays, we accept. This fund has grown, and last year, my EMS coordinator came to me and said, we need to get the newest heart monitor that does everything we can do to provide better service. And I said, how much? And he said 85,000. And I said, come back to me. But in the meantime, we have worked it down to where it's going to be a little less than 55,000. We're also getting traded for one of our older monitors that we carry on the engine. So that monitor will be traded in. The newer monitor on the medic will go to the engine, and then the new monitor will be on the medic. One of the things that I've seen some places do, they stockpile this EMS billing money. This is an investment that really our residents are kind of making from their insurance. And so we want to make sure that we pay that back and we use that money to improve our services. And so when you get to the appropriation, that's why, that's the only thing that we added to the appropriation.
And that's reflected in your appropriations as it's written in the agenda, Lisa?
No, I just changed it, fire, rescue, ambulance, and EMS.
She just changed the total, which is what I asked her to do. So I just wanted to
We'll
let you.
get, yeah, we'll get to
You
that.
guys understand and everybody understand why we've asked for that extra amount.
And we saw the email traffic
Yeah.
on this. Yeah.
How's the accreditation process going?
It's going, we are working on rules and regs right now. We got, it's a couple year process.
I got you.
And then we're also going to participate in some of the strategic planning process that we're doing, because we have to have a community driven plan. So we'll be working on that.
Great. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Yes,
That the guys and girls that are in paramedic school, I see them nonstop studying. Like, I walk up there constantly and drop off, you know, I know he sees it and I see it. Being in the building, but the ones that we're helping with paramedic school and hired on full time, they are busting booty studying. They're constantly helping each other study. They have things up on the screens almost every day I go up there. So just so you guys know, you know,
guys doing a
putting
great
into
job.
them is paying off.
The more we continue to laud the fire department and the maintenance department, the more money they
I know.
continue to ask for, so.
Right. It was good to see Ray and crew at the strategic planning meeting,
Mhm.
and they stuck around.
Well, and as I texted
It's
you, I
great.
was not feeling well, but I want to make sure we had some representation.
Yeah, and of course, the comments around the room were very positive about the services that you guys provide. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both. Lisa, you want to take over for a little bit?
January bank reconcile was up on there, fine. You guys got the year to date appropriation status ledger and cash summary report. Approval of warrants and vouchers from the said payment listing report, starting with warrant number 1308 through warrant number 1329, voucher number 21-2025 through voucher number 30-2025, in a total amount of $180,492.58.
I think the warrant numbers were actually 13,808 through 13,829. I think we're just missing an 8 in there based on the agenda. Holding.
Now I have it right on mine.
Okay, so 1308 and 1329.
08 through warrant number 13829.
That's what's reflected in the agenda. That's just, I don't think we said that the first time, so just verify.
Copy pasted
Okay.
from your email.
I would move to approve the warrants and vouchers as listed.
Second,
All those in favor, aye?
I
Aye, none opposed, passes. carries.
And then approve the 2025 permanent appropriations retroactive from January the 1st, 2025 for the total amount of $5,132,055.85.
And that does reflect the additional fire and EMS.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, move to approve permanent appropriations.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And then approve the 2025 local government officials conference. For me so far, March the 27th through the 28th is a 2-day conference. Last year was a 3-day and they charged 600 plus meals and parking for 2 days. It is downtown. And I'm not sure if the fire chief or the assistant chief would be interested in going because it is for them too.
And that dollar amounts per person, per attendee.
Well, I don't know what the cost is yet, February the 28th,
I got you.
but you want to get registered because those classes fill up.
Is that, it's actually March.
March 27 to 28.
Yeah,
March.
March 27th.
So we've got some time. Yeah, I cannot attend. But if others would like to attend, they could let us know between now and the next trustee meeting.
Because it said it's for the fiscal officer, mayors, clerks, trustees, fire district officials. If you guys are interested. You can look at it online. At the
They're
black
checking their
list
calendar.
from
That's-
last year.
I would assume we need to go ahead and allow the registration, right? Because our next meeting is March. Would you be able to register at the next meeting, or is this something that needs to get passed today?
Well, I'd rather get it passed today.
Yeah, because our
For
next
me,
trustee meeting is the week
because
before
I'm
the
gonna be
conference.
My class. Cause
Yeah.
this is once a year. This is my thing to go to
Sure.
for being the fiscal officer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any issue with it. I think it's probably important that we get to it. So I would move to approve resolution -012.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
And then the Harlem Township unaudited 2024 year-end financial report is available for reviewing online, including the year-end of 2024 financial report. FYI.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay. Pete, stretch your legs again. Got a few other things to chat about right here. I did want to get some feedback and opinion from you as far as Big Walnut Board of Education's or at least the district's, the treasurer's response to our TIF.
Yeah.
I know that they had some requests in there, but seems a little bit unclear, at least to me, as far as what changes that they might be requesting, if any. And so I'm wondering if you could just break that down.
Yeah, so it's actually the same letter that they sent on TIF 1.
Which we didn't see.
Right. So I actually had a conversation with him on TIF 1. And essentially what they would like to see right out of the gate is a 30-year non-school TIF. That's essentially what I think they would prefer. Obviously, what you've done, what many others do, and like Trenton Township, they just get their foot in the door first, and then
Because we did a 1075, right?
right, because you don't need anybody's approval. And we did include language that we put in TIF 1 saying it was our intent to work with the school district. When the time comes, when the appropriate time comes to do a 30-year non-school TIF, that language was put in TIF. We put that in TIF 1 after I talked with the treasurer, and we just went ahead and carried it over for TIF 2. But really, it's just I think their general desire would be to do a 30-year non-school TIF right out of the gate. But
Yeah. So as I'm understanding, rather than wait for us to own up to our word in the letter of intent. They would rather us just go ahead and establish it as such.
Correct.
Now I did see in the letter from the treasurer's office that they had extended some offers of assistance as far as creation of documentation. Is that assistance that we need?
Well, so anytime you can do legal work on somebody else's dime is a good thing.
Spoken from the lawyer.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I always get a kick out of it when developers come into townships. And I try to have the developers' attorneys do as much of the legal drafting as possible. And then makes my job easier, makes it, and I review it. And then I also ask the developer to pay for my costs too, a lot of times. But yeah, so I think that's the assistance. My guess is, I don't know, they probably use Bricker
I would get.
as their legal counsel. I don't know if that's Rob McCarthy. He does a lot of TIF work on the school district side. Not uncommon, but yeah, absolutely. If the time comes appropriate where we want to sit down and have that conversation on a particular parcel that we think we need to activate on the tip before we do that, reach out to the school district, set up a meeting, and by all means, if they want to go ahead and have their legal counsel prepare the first amendment and related school compensation agreement, then absolutely.
So this doesn't require a response now. This requires a response when a TIF is
I think when it's
executed.
appropriate.
Okay.
Correct.
Do we need to respond to that effect to the school board?
I mean, that's up to that's up to you. I had the
What do you
conversation
reckon?
with the treasurer as to why we were doing it. He understood, but I think it's just their principle is, what it is, and it's reflected in the letter. And I think they just wanted to express that again, like they did the first time. But whether you want to respond, that's completely up to you.
What do you
folks.
recommend?
I mean, but I'm not sure it warrants an official written response. If you all if one of you wants to have a call with the treasurer, I think that would probably work just as well. But it's up to you guys, really. I mean, really, that's not a legal issue. This is more of a
Right,
local
a relationship.
political relationship
Yeah.
issue. If you want to respond formally by saying, they did acknowledge that we did put a section 7 in there again.
Yeah.
Reiterating our commitment to work with the school districts. I mean, that's really what you're going to say. We've already said that in the legislation.
Jim, do you feel like there's any change in appetite or belief since we sat down with the treasurer and superintendent?
No, I've talked to the treasurer, basically like Pete did, probably more on a non-formal basis and told him our position. And I also talked to Johnstown Monroe when we did the first one. And they were very down to earth about it. And basically, this is almost like a form letter for them. Anybody that does this, they just whack it out there. So when you talk to them, they didn't seem worried because we said we were going to, but there's nothing wrong with one of the trustees or both reaffirming that we will get with them at such a time as we're ready to, do some development.
And we do have a section 7 in the TIF agreement as is, or in the TIF as
Yeah,
it's written.
we basically, I mean, it's word for word. We just cut and pasted it.
Yeah, I don't mind going up and talking to them. Just also, I think I'd like to make them aware of the strategic planning process that we're engaged in.
Yeah.
And see if they would like to participate in any aspect of that.
Good idea.
Also, with Crossroads, we talked about trying to get perhaps a student or two involved in this. It'd be a great learning experience for a junior or a senior that's thinking about a career in community planning to come alongside us. And Holly, I haven't had that conversation yet. So it might be just a good opportunity to engage them.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have anything else on the TIF, but I'll turn it over to you to discuss strategic planning.
Sure. I wanted to give you, this is the resolution from Delaware County so that you have a copy
Yeah, I've
and you can take a look at it.
heard people
Yeah.
talking about it, but I've not actually seen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I asked Holly to give us an update on strategic planning.
You guys need me?
I'm good, Pete.
Good.
Thank you
Good?
for coming.
All right, I appreciate
Thank
it.
Thanks very much.
Good
Take
evening.
care.
I have one.
Love this, by the way. There you go.
Oh, I know. I agree. It was like, this is way better.
They are, they're the same line. Let it grow. More truck, more building. More people, we're not part of the plan.
All right. So, quick update, we had our first community-wide meeting on February 8th over at the Harlem Road Church. We had approximately 120 folks that attended the meeting. This meeting was led by Angela Cryle from Cryle Communications, who is a sub-consultant to us at Crossroads. And Angela began the meeting by asking residents to think about a gold star business and what makes that business successful. And this set the stage for completing a SOAR activity, which SOAR, like soaring, strengths, opportunities, aspirations equals results. Similar to a SWOT analysis, but more aspirational and does not focus on weaknesses. The large group was then divided into 4 smaller groups that each had a facilitator that led them through this SOAR activity. And once the opportunities were identified through this activity, then each participant was given a set of stickers, 6 stickers each, and were asked to vote on the opportunities that their individual group identified. Everything was up on big sticky boards on the walls. And then from there, we reported out on the different opportunities that were prioritized by the stickers from the individual committees. And we saw that there were a lot of parallel and common themes as each of those groups reported out. So what we did is took all of the boards. So we took all of the handwritten documents from that day, and we narrowed it down into a summary, which is what you have in front of you, front and back 1-pager. We're going to utilize this. I'm not going to read through it because you guys can all read through it, but I think it highlights some great things, and also shows that the community as a whole seems to be looking kind of in the same direction as far as those who were in attendance at the meeting. These strengths, opportunities, and aspirations will help inform the planning process as we move forward, and help the trustees to identify the strategic pillars that will help set the foundation for future policy decisions in the community. So that is where we are with our first community-wide meeting. In addition to that, we are working on identifying a community strategic planning committee to help guide the process as well. As you all know, the applications were due the Friday before the community meeting. And from there, Lindsay, she as the communications subcommittee chair, she redacted all the personal identified information from those applications and sent them to Crossroads. And our group, my team, we reviewed all of those applications in qualitative terms. There wasn't really a way to rank them because we wanted to make sure that we had a cross section of the community. So we looked at different qualitative factors such as how long has someone lived in the community, what's their level of experience? Do they have different kinds of expertise so that we can get different kinds of expertise chiming in the community? So we were able to identify through that process 7 individuals who we did not know the names of when we reviewed the applications. Lindsay then gave us the names of those 7 individuals. I still don't know the names of the others that applied. There were 13 altogether. So I don't know the names of the others who applied. I've reached out to those 7 individuals. 4 of them have returned my phone call and have confirmed that they're still interested in participating. I'm still waiting on a phone call for 3 of them. So until I have all 7 identified, I feel like I should probably not report out on who those individuals are at this point in time. But we are working on that as we speak, and I will be following up tomorrow on those that I did not hear back from today. I made the calls yesterday. So with that, our next steps are to get that committee formed, get a first meeting set with them. And then we're also working on a follow-up meeting, community-wide meeting. We're hoping to have that in late March, but we have to work out those details. And we'll be working on finalizing those details and announcing that as soon as we possibly can. And we're also looking at other opportunities of ways to get community feedback through this process. Some ideas that I think are great. Don't want to really give those out right now until we have them solidified, but some really good ideas that Angela is helping bring to the table from a communication standpoint. So that's where I am, and happy to answer any questions.
Holly, I'm curious about the steering committee that you referenced. So you've got 4 that have confirmed, waiting on calls back from 3, correct?
Correct. Yep.
What will be the process if you don't get the calls back to complete the 7?
Yeah, so at that point, we would go back. That's why I didn't want to know the names of the other 6 individuals. We'll go back and look at the remaining 6 and determine which of those 6 make sense to follow up with as a replacement.
And that was probably the only other piece that I wanted to highlight, not to be a downer on that, but you've got 7 kind of identified and you have 6 to fall back on.
Yep.
So you had a pool of 13 citizens of this community interested in being a part of the steering committee to determine the future of the community, right?
Right.
There was, 10 times that number in the church a couple Saturdays ago. So I think I'm, just speaking for myself in this situation, right? I'm very impressed so far by the process, especially with Angela and having Corral's involvement. I'm really looking forward to how this process will go. Like many other things, I would love to see the involvement of our community increase.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Because I feel that the board is trying really hard to involve the community in this, and would just love to see those calls answered.
Yep.
The one, not criticism, but I think fair observation of that meeting on Saturday was that there was a certain demographic kind of across the board that was represented in that meeting. And we're missing, in my own mind, I think about if you moved into this community within the last decade, that's a group of people that I would love to see more engaged. And so I know that Crossroads and Cryle is thinking in particular, how do we engage these folks that have more recently come into our township? And there's some nice creative ideas they're coming up with that I agree with you. We've got to see, while 125 was great, there are some missing gaps that we
Yep.
need to fill in. Yeah.
Yep. And we're working on that.
Anything else on that, Jeff? For strategic planning? Thanks, Holly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a note on here to discuss the election board moving the voting place in Harlem Township to Grange Hall. I got that letter in the mail.
I did too. This came up during the staff meeting on Friday.
Yes.
And Jason, so this decision was made apparently by the Board of Elections without our knowledge.
In a vacuum.
Is that correct? And so this came as a surprise. It was a surprise to me when I got the letter in the mail. And so we were discussing it on Friday, and Jason made the astute point that the Grange Hall is not compliant with ADA directives. And Lisa was making more points to me today on the phone of difficulties that would come with the Grange Hall. And so I'm wondering
I can speak to that.
how we respond to this and express our concerns to the Board of Elections. But Joni, you should have us.
The election workers requested the change,
Okay.
mainly because of losing the kitchen.
Of losing the kitchen. What does that mean?
That means we no longer have a place to have our lunches and dinners. We're there for 15 hours straight. And Ashley has allowed us to use her office to have a lunch and dinner, but we can't really make anything. And it was just becoming difficult because we're not allowed to eat where we have the equipment, the room with the equipment in it.
Right?
So by moving over to the Grange, we could have that kitchen area available to us. And for our, 15+ hour days.
Yeah, the difficulty is that there are so many hurdles to leap over to use the Grange that it's at this point, it's prohibitive. And I'm not sure the Board of Elections considered it.
The Grange. They have been there, they've looked at it, they've taken measurements. With that new concrete apron in the front, they don't see an issue with people with walkers or something like that getting in.
I can speak to it a little bit. I talked to Andrew Shaw, which is our connection through the Board of Elections.
Yeah.
Because after we had that meeting on Friday, we had discussed, kind of figuring out what the ADA compliance looked like. So he did reach out to me, and so he met with Kendra when she was here. Went over, they looked around, they did not switch it for the presidential election. The main reason being presidential elections are, obviously every election is a big deal, but presidential elections get the most hold essentially. So they did not want to move it during a presidential election due to people saying, you moved my poll, I didn't know where it was, I couldn't vote. They also just didn't want to restrict people not getting that information. So they want to give plenty of time for that information to be switched over. That is why it was not changed for the November election. They looked at the possibility of it not being ADA compliant for an event that should be. And they said that there are essentially the Board of Elections is given a checklist by the state of what they have to follow. So because the people coming to vote are only there for roughly 10 minutes is their approximate time, I guess. Andrew said that because the bathrooms were kind of a concern, that they're in and out so quickly that nobody should be using the restroom, and they will make sure no wheelchair users are working the polls. And then the parking, because I said it's gravel. How do you expect wheelchairs and walkers and things like that? And he said that they will be putting a ramp to get over the threshold at the door and using temporary paint on the concrete slab up front for and a sign for a 1 ADA compliant parking spot. That is the information that I received. And I was gonna say something about it tonight when I know you guys had brought it up.
So just right off the top of my head, I wish Pete was still here because I have legal questions. One, and I know you probably don't know the answers to this, but I guess I'm curious if Andrew Shaw is the person that we need to ask.
Yes.
Say, for example, in the 10 minutes it takes to vote, a person who requires an ADA compliant facility has an issue and an ADA complaint is filed, and now all of a sudden there's money that needs to be spent to bring that building up to ADA code. Who has to fit that bill?
Oh, yes.
Right. So I have a concern with that, especially since we have an ADA compliant building for those purposes, right?
Yes.
In addition to that, it seems like we might be alienating a section of our population, saying that they can't do their citizenry duty of volunteering at a poll because they require ADA accommodations.
Yeah, I've never had, somebody in a wheelchair.
That,
or-
and I think that's fair, and respectfully, it's one of those things where as soon as you change something, that's when it's gonna happen. And I just think an ounce of prevention probably can do a lot in a situation like this. It just, and I feel like there might have to be more conversation with
Yeah.
whoever at the Board of Elections. I know that the postcards have already been sent, but now I just wonder if it might be a smaller hill to climb to figure out a better way to provide lunch and breaks for the folks that are working the machines rather than change the entire facility. I don't know what your
Yeah,
thoughts or opinion are.
my immediate response was, man, why doesn't the township cater a meal for the folks that are working our polls? That seems like the nicest way we could serve them, but also provide a space. I wasn't aware that there was this need, but why wouldn't we put ourselves out for a day for our poll workers and provide them with a meal? Uh, to, to thank them for their service. I would be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, it's never happened before. I don't know what other townships do. I know the other polling location in the township is over at Harlem Road Church. So that's another different prospect. I mean, it has kitchen facilities,
Yeah.
a separate room for eating in and so on.
Yeah, if we have to say, hey, Ashley, you're gonna work from home on,
Okay, she's been very nice about
Um,
her.
sure.
I will not say no to that.
It seems a drastic measure when we might be able to solve the immediate problem in a less drastic way.
We do have quite a number of people using walkers, I'm sorry, keeping them in dinners over there. They don't seem to have an issue with the bathrooms or getting into the place.
I think, further, obviously, this is something that's determined by the Board of Elections, but I do think further conversation with that board is necessary.
I think the owner of the building has a right to say no.
That's
He's the
fair.
Board of Election.
Carla Aaron is the person.
Who,
Carla Aaron.
who is that?
Director.
Carla Heron?
And my concern is the parking lot.
Same traffic flow, would
And
be a
then
concern.
you've got the next door neighbor house right next to you that he does not want any noise at 6:30 in the morning or 6 AM.
And the polls open early.
And the polls open up early, and what if somebody parks in his garage? Because there's no parking spot to get in to the grain pile.
Mike knows what to do. Okay, so I think we've had some conversation on that. I think we'll probably have some additional conversation with the Board of Elections.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I understand that.
And do you think, Johnny, that if we came back to the workers and we said, hey, we'll cater a meal for you, we'll give you a space, would that meet the need that they feel they have?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just
And what the meal is.
never, yeah, it's never been offered before, and I don't know if any other townships do that sort of thing.
It seems like the least we could do for the folks in our township that are serving our residents.
Well, to overcome the issue at hand, right? I don't know if that issue exists in other townships. All right. I'm going to move on to the next resolution here. I have a resolution 25-02919T013, approval to pay Harlem Church rental fee. Do you have any comments on that?
No, just they agreed on short notice to open their facility to us as we recognized our numbers were growing. So this rental fee covers janitorial services as well as a fair price for using their facility.
So I would move to approve paying Harlem Road Church a rental fee, $500 for the strategic planning meeting, building use, utilities, janitorial services. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And then we have a resolution here as well, harkening back to the previous conversation as it relates to an official stance and a response to the EPA on the 208 plan that's proposed. I would make the motion that the board assumes that our opinion be that the 208s adopt a first come, first served preference over any area within the township boundaries as it relates to the sewer rights. I would like to relate that opinion to the EPA via letter. And I would like to appoint myself to be responsible to make sure that gets to the EPA prior to their next meeting. I think it's probably important to mention here that we do not oppose the 208 as proposed. We have a preference that the 208 boundaries adopt a first come, first served approach. Would you say that that's accurate, or do we oppose it as written? And I guess I would add to that, that I think it is in our best interest to allow Galena the opportunity to service that area. And as it is right now, that would be very difficult, would it not?
What?
For Galena to service that area of Harlem Township if the 208 is not changed from its current standing.
Changes the negotiations. You're bringing more people into it. The 208 staying in place makes the road for Harlem Township much easier.
Because if that 208 as is proposed does not pass, right? Then that is still essentially, what did we call it earlier? No man's land, right? So by eminent domain, the county assumes that they have the right to service it.
Right.
And so if we go up there and try to get some sewer and we say, hey, we want to go to Galena because they're closest, then we don't get to just do that working with Galena. We would have to go through county, so on and so forth, correct?
Well, we have to talk to them, but give them the opportunity, like I said, 4 conversations. And they're probably not gonna be there as soon as Galena because of all the construction going on in Galena, because they've crossed the creek.
Mhm.
They're up there where M&I is. They're getting closer all the time.
Yeah, my assumption is that, my guess is that the EPA passes the 208 as currently drawn up. That my second assumption I have is that Galena is able to provide services sooner than Delaware County. My overriding understanding is that the 208, however it's drawn up, is not written in stone. That it is a living document that doesn't tie our hands one way or the other.
Right.
And so I think that understanding gives me freedom of conscience to say, yeah, I'm okay with you saying 208 as proposed, but we would prefer first come, first serve.
I'm aligned with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my understanding is it is first come, first serve. It's
And,
not written.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's just, I think it's of our interest to express that
Yeah.
desire.
Holly, do you agree with that position?
I believe that if the line is drawn on the 208 plan, they're gonna defer it to Galena. And
Right.
it would take an amendment to a change in that plan to go back to Delaware County.
Yeah. And the EPA seems open to that process. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, I make a motion to approve resolution as written. I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You want to cover the next one?
Sure. As part of our original approval of the strategic planning process, we had the concept of outside independent planning group auditing the work and providing feedback to the process adopted by Crossroads. And so I did talk to Chris Herman at MKSK. And while he has not provided a final yay or nay, he's very open to engaging in that process. And so this motion is for what we originally said, offering to pay them up to $10,000 to provide that auditing and feedback service on Crossroads work.
And is that that's a total contract, right? Regardless of time period.
Yes.
I remember the original conversation about that.
And I have not mentioned a dollar figure to him.
Anything on that, Lisa?
No.
I move to pass the resolution as written. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please, Ashley.
Holiday.
Aye.
Aye.
Ashley, you have a couple things in here?
Yes. Approval of trustee minutes, January 8th, 2025, or the organizational trustee meeting minutes. January 8th, 2025, regular trustee meeting minutes, and January 15th, 2025, regular trustee meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, and then I wanted to discuss our phones. So we talked at our meeting on Friday and kind of let John in on what was going on. Our phone system is, for a lack of better words, garbage.
Is that what controlling these TVs?
No, that's already in the works. We were talking about it today. So that will be my next. I'm gonna turn into maintenance and I'm gonna start asking for things. That will be our next thing. I've learned from Jason. So, we looked into the phone system, so we got Spectrum VoIP. Back in, I think it was 2021. So Spectrum VoIP is not connected with Spectrum Enterprise, which is the one that all of us know. So they have used the name to pretty much probably get, not saying I know them, but Spectrum VoIP, it kind of sounds like, oh, there was Spectrum Enterprise or Spectrum Business. The prices were good. I looked at the contract and everything. They are, from what I'm kind of getting, the Spectrum VoIP is almost like their call center name. And then they use Gray Bar as their, as their like leasing company for the phones, the lines, all that kind of stuff. So the issues that we've been having are dropped calls, missed calls, voicemails not forwarding. I had a voicemail that I needed to forward to you. I had to do it in writing because it wouldn't forward from our phones. Mike's phone just straight up hasn't worked for a couple months, and we've called multiple times. They've sent us a new phone. It wasn't the phone. They are out of Texas, so they have nobody on site, no one to come out and service if we need something fixed. Everything is okay, we'll just reset your entire system. While resetting the entire systems, it's changing our screens on our phones. It's changing our ability to connect from office to office. It is hard to get a straight answer. Every time we call, you're getting different answers from different people. So we don't have like a one contact. It's you call, you talk to whoever's there. I have tried to call the person on our contract for our services. I never get back from them. I always get a call from a call center person. It's always different. So connecting with them has been really difficult. Getting things fixed has been difficult. I carry a township phone at all times because I run the rentals and cemetery. And thankfully I have not missed any of those calls because they've normally call during regular hours. But I will come in on Monday and have 3 or 4 voicemails and 0 missed calls on my cell phone. Called 3 different times to get that fixed. Hey, we'll just reset everything is their answer. So essentially we're just having nothing but problems and they're not fixing it. So myself, Chief, Jim, Mike, we've all talked about we gotta do something. Like we can't be missing resident calls. If somebody needs something as an emergency over the weekend and it's not coming through to me or anybody else with a phone, that's not acceptable. So we met with Spectrum Enterprise. When was that? Yesterday? Tuesday. So yesterday, yeah. So we met with, I've been in talks with a guy from Spectrum, like I guess it was yesterday. I had been communicating with, Jim from Spectrum, and he put together a presentation. He came in, we put it on the TV. Myself, Jason, Mike, and Chief had a conversation with him about what Spectrum Enterprise would look like for us. We would get all new phones. They would completely rewire our entire building, including the fire department side. Along in their just basic package that we would have, we would get all the new phones, all the new wiring. Voicemails that are transcribed, which is great. So essentially, if somebody calls in, leaves a voicemail, it will transcribe it into writing and send us an email, so we don't even necessarily, if we're just quickly looking at it. Or, you know, there are certain details, those details will be transcribed into email for us. We can respond through email. They have e-faxing, so instead of writing to the fax machine every time, or say one of you need to fax something from your house, you can log into your app on your computer and you can e-fax to anywhere from anywhere, which I thought was really nice. You can get the app on all devices, so I can have the Spectrum Enterprise app on my computer here, my phone, my business phone. I could stick it on this computer if I needed to. And I can open up, make calls from the computer or the phone. It will come to everything. So a call comes into my extension, it'll ring on every device I have that app on, whether it's open or not. So if I'm on the lock screen of my business phone, it'll still ring in, and that's an issue we're having with the company we have now is they said, well, just leave your app open at all times and your calls will always come through. And I said, well, that's not a thing. So not doing that. So no matter if my phone's closed or not, it'll open up. Same thing for you guys if you're using that app. One thing that I thought was really great is they have video calling as one of the features. So we would be able to get rid of our Zoom accounts. And the video conferencing feature would be essentially a bonus that we would have. So all the recording and everything, it wouldn't just record to this computer and then I have to come in and carefully take it off the computer and carefully put it on YouTube. It would automatically save to every device that has that app.
But we'd be able to do that for public meetings as well.
You do it for public meetings. So it runs just like a Zoom. Like he opened it up and showed it to us. It has the recording features, people can log in. I would just put the link on our pages already like we do. And it would automatically download to our devices.
Okay.
So there wouldn't be any like wait time like here. So say we did this meeting, we get snowed in tonight, I can log into my app on my computer at home and I can upload it from there. So it's anywhere, anytime. One really cool thing that we liked about the video conferencing, like the Zoom, is it transcribes everything. So obviously I would have to put in, you know, Jason said this, John said this, Adam said this, but it will transcribe into essentially meeting minutes for the entire meeting as it records. So you're getting the video, the sound, and a custom transcription of everything that was said. So if the mics aren't picking it up or something like that, or if somebody's back here and you're up there and the mics pick it up, it'll tell us what people are saying, which I thought was kind of cool. And it will honestly make my meeting minutes so much quicker. Doorbells that we have will still connect, so we don't have to get new ones. The biggest thing for us was the on-site help. One of their largest stations pretty much is Olympic River. They can have somebody out here within 24 hours or a couple hours if they're not busy. So we're having an issue, tech issue, phones aren't working. Instead of, okay, let's just reset your entire system, they will send somebody out and actually physically help us. And I think for me, that's the biggest lack that we're having right now.
And Spectrum VoIP is in Texas,
They're in Texas.
so this is a problem.
Yes, they're in Texas, and I think they have like a warehouse in Minnesota or something like that, because it said when we returned the phones that they were probably going to Minnesota. But everything's coming out of Texas, so there's nobody here. to help. So those are the big things and just some like fun features. You can set holiday messages and things like that. So at the beginning of the year, I can set all the days that were closed and I don't have to go back in and it'll send them straight to voicemail. So they don't have to listen to it ring for however long it takes. And then it'll say, you know, Harlem Township is away for the holiday. Please leave a message. So those are just some fun features. So we talked about pricing, with that. And the biggest thing was that we're getting features to where we can get rid of some of the things that we have, such as the video chatting, things like that. So that will bring some of that money back in. To do the install of all of the, so we would get all the phones installed, the wiring done, our port switches, which for anybody that doesn't know, because I didn't, the port switches are pretty much, it's the bar that all the lines go into. So all 16 phones that we have a line into that port switch. We currently have a 48 and a 24. You had talked to Carol, he's gonna come in for what we have for the cameras. He should be able to go down to just a 24, which means we would only need a 24 for our phone lines. So that would take out $150 a month of cost because we would only need a smaller unit. We put the larger price just in case we needed it, but it was talked that there's a big possibility that could drop off. So for installation, and they give you training, so I would get training and then we would have a training for everyone that is going to use the phone systems. And that is $1,810 for the full installation, and that is somebody coming out, taking out what the other company has, putting in new and setting up our phone systems phone by phone and walking us through it. Month to month, it's gonna be to do the contract, but with the monthly, it would be $773 a month. That includes everything that gets installed and also them managing our port switches. So any updates that they have, any issues of, they will come out. Not do the monthly on the port switches, we have to install everything, including the wiring. We have to change over the phones, and I don't think that any of us are able. Not saying nobody is able, but I think leave it to the professionals, in my opinion, because I know I cannot. So the monthly would be $773. Now, if we are able to go down to that 24 port switch, which sounds very likely, it would bring it down to $623 a month. And that is full service, everything that I mentioned. There were a few other little features that we might not use now, but could use later. But I mean, they were extremely professional. Jim Hill was great. He had the entire presentation. And essentially we have like our own team on call at all times.
Lisa, your opinion?
If it's not working, then, I mean, yeah, we're gonna pay more.
How much more?
Well, right now we're paying $353.90 a month.
And this fits in this would fit in the budget?
So it's a little bit more, but if it's not working,
Yeah.
we're.
And we'd be able to take away
People are having
Zoom. We
problems.
wouldn't be paying Zoom yearly, which I think is like $300.
So you're comfortable with the increase?
That's what they wanna do.
One thing that Jim did tell me is, that it's very possible that he can get us the first 3 months for free because we will have to cancel our other service and buy out our contract.
How
So
much is the buyout? The contract?
I'm working on getting it. So I've gone back and forth with Spectrum VoIP and they couldn't give me a straight answer. And I said, hey, I need this buyout amount. And they said, well, we're not the one to give you the buyout amount after multiple emails. It's Graybar, which is the leasing company. So that's how I even figured out that they were not the ones leasing them. So I messaged Graybar today and I'm waiting for a response. So with the buyout, if they would make us buy out the entire, I think it's like 12 or 13 months left. It would be right around like 3,000, I think. With the 3 free months, we would be at about 2,500, so we would be almost to that buyout. So once I get that buyout amount, if they make us buy out the entire thing, which I'm not positive about, I can get a price on that. But at this point, we're not getting our calls that we need to get. We can't do the features that are simple for an office, such as sending voicemails or calls to each other. Mike has answered a couple calls that needed to go to me. He tried to transfer them over and it just hung up on them.
And so all the team is in agreement on this?
So the buyout could be up to $5,308.50 for 15 months. If they make us pay that $353.90.
But I think we only had like a year. Do we have more than a year on there?
I don't know, you said.
Yeah, I
like
think we only
15
had
months.
I think we had like 12 or, I think we had a year or 13 months, but I'm not positive they're gonna make us buy the whole thing out. I'm just waiting to hear back from Texas.
Any conversation with the Spectrum rep as far as scalability of this? Like, say for example, in 3-4 years, we have twice as many township employees. Would we need to pay twice as much a month to support it, or should this cover us for a while?
I think that it would definitely cover us for a while. Per unit, it's only $20 per phone line.
One of the things that Carol's gonna do when he comes in is he's gonna make sure that it can be built out so that we're not limited on both sides,
Yes.
not only on the Spectrum side, but also on our side. As we grow, we have bigger demands, so.
And this is just landline phones. This is not impacting township cell phones. Or is it both?
We will be able to use this on our township cell phones.
Well, have an app like you can
Yep.
have now for the current phone system.
I got you. So yeah, and that's part of the Ring Central.
Yeah, the Ring Central, it's like the company. that-
Which I'm familiar.
So,
I've used Ring Central before. It's pretty
essentially,
robust.
we'll have a desk phone and that same system is on our computer. So say my desk phone goes out in the 2 days that I'm waiting for anyone to ship out, I can just call from my laptop.
Yeah, I think that would be my biggest point there is continuity of township services, right? Like, I mean, township can't go down.
Yeah.
You have anything else on that?
I feel strongly that this is a place where we interface with our residents. And it's very important that it be reliable. And I think it's worth the investment to get that reliability. And if we have to pay a bit of a cost, I'm okay with that. Lindsay?
Obviously, budgets are budgets, but if it's in the budget, it could be good to future proof to have some sort of designated line. For if we have more big public events that people need to RSVP for, that way they're not interrupting your main phone line, just leave an RSVP, something to consider.
Yeah, it wouldn't have to.
Good
be
idea.
extra run, we could just put it right on when you call in on directory, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, push 5, and then you could go right to that.
There we go.
Yep.
Hey,
Yeah, we
actually,
could
do
make
we
that.
get to have our same number? Or what happens with all that?
I think you can take I think when I was reading the contract, you can carry your numbers over. When I was reading the Spectrum VoIP contract, that you can pull your number. They'll put it in like a holding pattern and then Spectrum Enterprise will just see
Take it out.
eventually. Kind of like if you're going from T-Mobile to
Cell phone.
AT&T, yeah.
All right, so I'll make a motion on this, a move to approve the contract with Spectrum Enterprise. The monthly cost not to exceed $773 per month. The installation fee at $1,810. Is there a second?
I would only say, should we include that there may be a cancellation fee in this that we will pay
Yeah, Lisa, does that need to be,
in the
do we need to put a
resolution?
dollar amount on it though?
You could go
Up
like
to,
up to
30.
5,500.
Okay,
Because right now, if it's 15 months, it's 5,300.
got it.
So that way we cover.
Yeah, and I wanna say it's under that when I looked at the exact, I can't remember what the exact date is. I looked at it like 2 weeks ago.
But it'll just cover.
But it'll at least
Sure.
give that.
So,
that-
you need to drive a hard bargain there.
yeah,
Oh, absolutely. Well, and he said, I
Put
mean.
that
I
negotiator
really
hat
like
on.
what He said, he was like, because of the size of this.
that's
He
great.
said, I
You-
don't see it.
you
being
need
an issue
to-
getting that
To
first 3 months.
emphasize the poor quality of service we've had to date
Oh, yeah.
and Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna be working, we're gonna fine tune home, I think Chief and I were gonna sit down and fine tune home the contract. And see where they're lacking, because they're not coming through on their side of things.
We feel they were in breach, we just haven't.
Absolutely, we
Okay.
just need to find where it
If
is.
that would be great.
If we find we're in breach, then we'll let you guys know, we'll also reach out to Corey and go from there.
So we'll add language to that resolution indicating that we will also pay a contract termination up to, not to exceed $5,500 in order to move forward with that. Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, let's jump into maintenance, roads and parks here real quick. I know that we have a resolution here, Jason, to talk about the silo, but I know there was a request for some conversation on this. But Jason, I want to see if you wanted to give us some details on the resolution for the silo first.
Over the course of the last 2.5 months, I've contacted 6 different contractors to come out and had 5 show up and only 4 actually give a quote, one last one today. They range anywhere from $30,000 to $89,000 to remove that silo from our site. Largely impaled because it's the concrete demolition with full rebar that a lot of places will not take, so it has to be placed to a certain area. Our lowest bidder of Colvin Gravel, who was actually a concrete recycling facility, came in to remove that silo for $27,300. And I'd also asked the price to get the old septic tank out, which now I'm actually met a guy today to look at that commercial septic tank that might be reusable depending on what we want to do with that site. But that's going to be another $2,300 that I need to figure out within the next week. But long story short, a bid of $30,000 Colvin, Bryant Tree Service gave us $39,000, and MLS Construction out of Delaware came in at $89,000, and then local iron site came in at $43,000. So I would like to ask for approval to not exceed $35,000 to have Colvin remove the silo, the wall, the pad it's on, and the footer, and the existing footer next to the slurry pit, which if we don't do the septic tank would only be about $27,300. But so not to exceed 35. If we go with the septic tank, which will lead into, I met with Judge's Excavation today, who's a local resident on Fancher Road who does septic tank work. And he is telling me we'd have to have it inspected and tested, but that being the commercial tank that was put in for that concrete plant and the way it's set up is probably reusable, which we would have to ask the county about, who can't provide me any records for it, which has been part of the lag of come on, guys, you're the ones in charge of this. So depending on what we want to do with the site, that could serve as our septic system for a community facility, shelter, barn, what have you. But I was going to try to dive more into that the rest of this week, first and next week, to see if maybe I could get Delaware County out here to give me a solid answer. But definitely want to get the silo down because, one, it is a public hazard. That's why there is a fence around that compound, jagged rebar sticking out of it. The ground is unstable around it. The wall is deteriorated, falling beside it, and just the effort it would take to try to utilize that as a public structure, I think, is more than what it's worth, and remove it and provide something new. With the way it's set up, it's 3/4 full gravel. It has a very rusted hopper on the bottom of it, holding that gravel in, which water runs through and is currently frozen. So to empty the silo, you're basically destroying the bottom of it. And to clear the face off that was broke off from the tunnel, you're destroying the side of it. So as you interfere with that structure, you're just weakening that structure, which has large cracks in it. And let's be honest, a YouTuber wants to climb the top, falls off, boom, now you're in a lawsuit for somebody that wanted to make a video. So I think if we remove that silo, remove all that as phase one, take that out, figure out what we're doing on the septic tank, but then I wanted to take that whole area and clean the debris, the trash, the rock, the gravel, the whatever's in there out, we will do in-house, and then get with somebody per se local to bring in fill dirt. A lot of building, a lot of excavation going on here. Fill that area in, cap it off, make it flat, plant grass in it, and next year be having grass growing there, and take that fence down other than across 605 to keep the entrances shut down, and make that new green space that is then park property to do what they wish. which I envision a new building structure that would look like a barn, to build a silo with it. That could have a open air market with garage doors on the front. You could open in the summer, close in the fall, have a large meeting room that could maybe seat 100, 120 people.
You really
Get
been
out of
thinking
the
about this,
church.
haven't
It's
you?
been a process.
Quite a vision you have.
And also incorporate a restroom that would replace that restroom in the park that is only a 2 to 3 season restroom,
Wouldn't that be something?
and really develop that whole area to really feed that park system of wow.
If we could seat 2 to 250, that would be great.
Well,
How big do you
we
think
can
that's
make it
gonna
happen.
be? Put the balconies in?
Right.
You want to say this? I know Tom wanted to talk about it.
Right, so, Tom, is this helpful for understanding kind of where we are with this? But also that we don't want to toss the silo / mural concept. We think it's a great concept, but maybe on a new silo.
Well, I would say coming in, late into the process, because I didn't know any of this.
Yeah.
I would just want to see for myself that the silo is in fact in desperate condition, that it does have to come down. We talked about putting a cap on it. Dave Jackson got that quote on a used cap from his supplier. So there are ways of maintaining that structure without tearing it down is not without its cost. Maintaining it may still be an option. And I would say, give me a couple of days, go over there, walk around it, and then we're done. One way or the other. Is that fair or not? You need to know tonight.
I guess the only challenge that I would provide to that is in early December of last year, when we were going through the budget request process for all of the departments of the township, the board was presented with an estimated plan for the silo that exceeded $200,000. I think about 150 something, 156 going just purely towards the silo. So why spend $100,000 on something that costs $35,000 to tear down when we can actually add functioning park space?
I'm not sure what the plan was, what that $50,000 is supposed to cover.
Yeah, and that was part of the conversation that the board had during the regular meeting in December, right? Of trying to determine that conversation. And Dave, that might have been a part of your America 250 budget request, but I mean, I'm looking at the paper right here in front of me on my laptop, and that came to us on December 10th. $120,000 for silo mural painting, $36,000 for silo preparation. And then there were some other line items on that. And so the board had the conversation of not sure that we could justify that. I'll be honest, I don't know that I could justify $35,000 in rejuvenating a concrete structure in the township when we're not using it for anything. Like what, I'm going to stop myself short of bringing up the question of like, what good does it provide us? Because I know that is, some historical significance to the township. But as we continue to grow and evolve, especially, what our new community planner here has outlined as a pretty good idea for that property, I just wonder why we would keep the concrete there.
I respect Jason's professional opinion on this. And I would tend to defer to him, Tom. Okay.
I just think we could really utilize that space for much more community purpose than a large concrete silo that.
But we don't want to lose the silo concept. It's
No,
a great
And
idea.
then I propose when we build our building, we build a silo
Yeah.
like a barn
Yes.
with a great mural that exhibits the Harlem Township heritage.
Yeah. 'Cause
And if you build a silo that's not an acting silo, it's much cheaper than something that's got to hold 3,000 pounds of grain or 10,000 pounds of gravel.
And Tom's point was it serves as a landmark that when people drive through Harlem Township, they'll remember that silo and that mural. And I think that's a great point. And it's a good reason to keep that idea alive so that it becomes kind of a landmark in our township. Hey, you remember that barn with the silo and
And I think it'll fit the community growing forward of a farm community, that we have a barn and a
Precisely.
silo in the heart of it,
precisely.
which is feasible and could lead into many other opportunities down the road, depending on what silo with if you use a large grain silo, you could actually use it for shelter, could be open, could be,
Sure.
you know, there's a lot of things out there happening nowadays that we didn't see 25 years ago, but it could be very utilized open park space for more green area, build larger building areas. If we wanted to small the building up for pickleball courses like they were asking, or whatever we do. I think that now it's just a hazard out there that me and the chief himself have deemed that it's a public safety issue, which is why there's a fence around it. So let's get it out. Let's get the fence down. Let's get some green space going, some more grass for me to cut, but I'm willing to do that. Extra staff.
Any other conversation on that? John, you have any concern? But you said you want to take some more time to determine what the best.
I want
course
to
of action is
determine with the septic tank, and I talked to Cole Van actually yesterday, just kind of give them a heads up, and they're 3 to 4 weeks out.
Mm.
So I will reach out to Delaware County to see if I can find anything out about the septic tank, and then also convert with them to see how the process needs to move forward.
Would you prefer that we discuss this in one resolution, or do you want to get the ball moving on the deconstruction of the?
I would like to approve the deconstruction of Colvin because they have at least 2 week out permitting process. And it gives them the opportunity to get with Delaware County on what they need to do. And their big project is the silo walls and footers. The tank is a 2 or 3 hour job. So I could easily tell them, hey, we're not going to do that. And it brings it right down to 27. I went with 35 because if I had extra permits or had to get Delaware County involved for
Sure.
things I'm unaware of, to just make sure we're covered. And then
Okay, with that, I'd make a motion to approve the contract with Colvin Gravel Company with a cost not to exceed $35,000. But actually, we need to make the adjustment to the language here to remove the part of removal of the old excavation and removal of the old septic tank. Right, so we're only talking here, demolition and removal of the silo, pad and footer. Stop. Correct, Jason?
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. All right, Jason. what you got
the
on-
next resolution I have here, the 250219 TO19, is to approve funds to repair our Kenworth dump truck, which is one of our snowplow operating salt trucks that has been down since December. We had it go down, send it to Piper Equipment. He did some minor repairs to it, didn't have access to the CMU because Cummins did an update, advised us to send it to Cummins, who gave us a quote to repair it of $83,500 and some odd dollars. Not to guarantee that it would fix it. That's what they think. So upon us, we reached out to a couple other trucking companies. There's a place out by Pataska, Parsons Trucking, that we reached out to, and they said they could basically do the same work for it, rewire the CME, replace the exhaust system, some bands, some sensors and whatnot, and they would do it for $7,500. And then Brian down at Piper's Equipment came back and said he would do that same work for $7,000. So I was asking for the resolution to have funds approved not to exceed 8,000 because it should be 7. But if there's an extra band or a bracket that, believe it or not, these trucks, you get an exhaust band and all of a sudden you're $150 higher because it's ridiculous. But we could get this truck repaired that has been down and get it back on the road running. And then then Ryan would stand by his work to maintain that truck if there were future issues where Cummins is kind of like, hey, you're out of warranty. We'll throw 8,400 at it. Call us if there's a problem.
Lisa, anything on that?
We had discussed about equipment maintenance, about truck maintenance and had that added to appropriations to cover this repair, to not interfere with something that might come later down the line. But that truck has been sitting in the shop since mid-December, has not moved. We have not used it. Thank God we had that other dump truck or we would have been in the pickle.
And this decision commits us to Piper working on this truck in the future.
Yes, which he has agreed to do, and I've been in great conversations with Dave about it, who's uses Piper for all his equipment, and I've been really stern with Piper about, we go with you, this puts it in your hands, and you are the maintainer of it, which he's all about, and he does our other equipment as well. So it's not a shop around, it's, hey, Ryan, we need this fixed. And he stopped by there and they had a good conversation that this will resolve the issues that we're having, that going through the records, they dump money in this truck every year because the sensors, to this, to that, it's a dump truck made to haul loads and run. And at the end of the day, it just doesn't run like it's supposed to
Got it.
because it idles.
Motion to approve the motion as written. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Jason. You got some other notes for us?
Just some quick notes. We've been pounding salt on the roads. It's been quite a battle with the ice lately. We fight what we can. Sunday, I actually put in 13 and a half hours. Monday, I had 8 hours in here. Well, everybody was home on holiday, but that's what I signed up for. Minor maintenance, we have Lewis Road's got some failure out by Green Cook. We're looking into base failure. We've had one driveway permit approved. We replaced our water hydrant at the shop because it was leaking. As far as the parks, we have removed the old swing set, got the bases out, removed it from the property. We are talking with the park committee about removing the sand and possibly putting in like a landscape mound to create a physical barrier between the shelter and the street / our building. I've assessed the lights over the park that need new service lines we were going to replace. Also in contact with the committee to see if they actually need the light by the large tree, which will be changing when the silo moves. And then also talks about renovating the park restroom that we have put in motion, that I've been looking into the costs and actually met with Dustin today to speak about how he can help, and called the floor guy, waiting on a response. The cemetery's had 2 barrels the last 2 months. It's been quite interesting up there with the snow and ice, trash debris, and then we're also looking into, I got with Ashley that we need to block off some grave lots due to the roads and the corners. We don't want to get ourselves in a spot where we can't get around. So a couple corner lots that might be removed. And the Grange Hall has really had no issues. The roof is there doing its thing, and we're just keep moving along.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to parks here. Dave, I see a lot here about the America 250. Is there anything more to this resolution other than just us formally saying that we support it? That's the right answer.
Dave and I actually had a meeting about the 250, and we had sat down about it. And there was actually an application process of being an official community, since he wants to run some things down at our cemeteries and making sure that we were officially a community, and we had discussed that and that it was a good idea. And him and John both agreed to be the contacts for that. So that's pretty much what this is that they require you to go to your trustees and get a resolution saying, yes, we do support these events.
And then within a month, you gotta have, designate 1 or 2 individuals from the community plus 1 member from the local civic nonprofit organization for this. So you gotta kind of be on a committee.
Got that handled?
I don't know if anybody knew that or not.
Yes, I knew that, and I've already started talking with people.
Okay.
You're-
Yeah, we talked about
you're-
that, and he said he already had a couple people in mind.
You're a man of few words tonight.
Good.
I would, resolution 25-0219T-020. I would move to approve that Harlem Township support officially the Ohio Commission for America 250.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we already did fire. Mike?
Yeah, right now we're sitting at 11 permits for the year so far. Actually, it's more than last year. January is always a slow month. We're currently tracking 10 code enforcement violations. 4 of those are businesses in the residential area. We had 2 commercial businesses operating residential area. One is currently working with the zoning commission to go for a PCD. And the other one is still the dump truck issue. He's not really moving on it. I called his lawyer's name's Nathan Painter and told him that we're tired of waiting. That's not our fault, that he's had lawyer problems and we needed something to come from this month. I also got with Corey, and Corey followed up and said that he's got a meeting with that lawyer before the end of the month. So they should be able to tell us something on the dump truck guys, because I asked him if there's anything we do to stop him, a cease and desist, whatever. He goes, if we do that, he's got to go to the courts. The courts will start the process. And he says all that has to happen is that the lawyer or painter would come in and say, hey, we're going to go talk to their zoning commissioner or BZA, whichever way they decide to go. And they kick the case out anyway. So he said, there's really not a whole lot we can do. We need to try to work through it on that. Rocket Man was actually into the BZA last night, and they accepted their application for expanded home use. He's going to move the majority of his business up to Trenton. He's got a property up in Trenton Township. He's going to move the majority of his business up there, and he's just going to keep it down to a minimum to where it would be able to fit within our expanded home occupation. And he's working through the BZA for that part of it. Tag Landscaping was the issue they had a problem with their sewer. They're dealing with Delaware County on that, the health department. But he still has an issue, and I still have an issue with him on the fact that that's an agricultural building, and there was more than agricultural items in it. He's committed to me to have that cleaned out within this month, and I'll go back out there and do an inspection of it to make sure that it is in fact agricultural. If not, we're going to have to go from there. I'm not sure which way he's going to want to go. He's either going to have to come down here, and depending on how much business he's doing out of it, which I think he's just storing some of his landscaping business in there, but he's got to get the other equipment out of it, and he'd probably have to come down to the BZA, but he's saying he'll get it cleaned out to where he can go back to his agricultural exemption. We have 4 properties in various stages of cleanup. We now have the 2 unowned properties in the township, and still nothing's changed on that. I asked Corey about that, and he said he's heard nothing more. There's nothing more on the docket for it. For the zoning commission, they've still got the storage business that they're working through, and I got something the other day, Mike, maybe, I don't know if you were in on that email, that he said he's working to get his the bathroom issue straightened away. Was that something you asked him for?
Yes, we're waiting to hear back. We're supposed to be checking with the health department to make sure that Delaware County Health would approve the use of a permanent porta potty there.
Yeah, and that's what he
So
said.
it's just, it's not like a temporary thing. It's got to be permanent.
Yeah.
They're asking for.
Yeah. And he's going to call me tomorrow, so I'll talk to him about that. I'll let you know what happens on that. Get here. All the Board of Zoning Appeals, like I said, they're currently working on 2 variances. They've got one for Westerville Estates to replace a sign there. And they were in last night talking with them, and they're working with those guys on that. And then that's really it. I still do have an issue with somebody that was granted a variance for expanded home use down in little town of Harlem. And he's in violation of it. I talked with Corey. I'm going to give him one more shot at it, and then we're going to talk about maybe taking his expanded home use back from him. So I'll let you know what happens on that. And that's it.
Thanks, Mike. Jim.
That's not too long. What happens? Almost 9 o'clock.
Almost.
All right. So on the economic development front, we've had some projects, the overlays, set back a little bit from what we originally planned time-wise. So what's happened is the medical and research facilities overlay on Center Village Road was moved back and put on hold by the trustees. Then we have the 605 overlay. We've changed the timeline on that, and we've moved it back to rework some items on that one. Put a hold on the Galena deal until we saw what this 208 and what we were going to do with moving forward with economic plan with them as far as an agreement and that type of thing. So I need to get with the trustees at some point so we can go over timelines on what we're going to do on these major items. Also we have developers coming in. I've had talk with them. They'll be coming in early spring, summer, looking for help on going over projects, setbacks, that type of thing. So because of these delays, I talked with Holly, and because her contract will run out, because of the delays, her contract would run out. She has agreed for Crossroads to put a pause on her contract starting the 1st of March, with the Galena thing being worked out, hopefully, and that type of thing. She may only be on a pause for a month, and then we can get started back on that. But we needed some clarity. I just don't want to run out of time, have to do that, all these type of things. Plus, I didn't want there to be a void. So talk with Holly. She's graciously agreed to go along with that, and talked with Dave Jackson. He's the signator on the contract, and he says that's fine with him.
So real quick, with Dave being the appointed to sign the contract, right? Would he need to be present to officially pause the contract?
So it's a board decision. The board just authorized him to sign on behalf.
Okay.
I just want to make sure it's clear that there's two contracts. This is the zoning contract.
Yeah.
Economic development contract that's being paused, the other contract for the strategic plan.
Lisa, would we need a resolution to pause this contract on the zoning? There's not one in the agenda tonight.
And the cost, I mean, the payment that we're not gonna have to pay now, and. You know, we kind of need it spelled out.
So can we bring that information to the March meeting so that we can have a resolution on it? I know you said it's, that with an efficacy date of March 1, and I don't think there's any issue there, but we just need the
Okay.
deeds.
Do that, and then I'll be charging March 1st for February services. I wouldn't charge until April 1st for March services, so we're fine.
Yeah. So Mike and I had put in our budget to take care of Holly. So what I don't want to do is just have a month that we don't have anything going on, then end up, being short, on our budget. So I think it works out great. She's happy, we'll be happy. We can get some things resolved with the trustees as far as what they want to do. So with that, and we'll work on a resolution for next meeting. Going forward, talk to trustee Trainer. There seems to be a discrepancy on the timeline of when the sewer is going to be finished coming into Delaware County from Columbus. Columbus is giving us a different date of finish versus Delaware County. And it's a big difference. It's over a year. So you originally said you were going to look into that for us.
Yes, and I'll have clarity on that within the next few days.
That's fine. That's fine. I just, so that also puts a crimp in what I've been doing, and I've had 2 calls today on it. And I said, I can't give you an answer. Not that it's going to be a definite answer anyway, because you can't control it. But that is such a big, discrepancy when developers and stuff are trying to figure timelines, how long they have to come into zoning and pull down the overlays. They got to figure out all their plans. It's just too big a spread. If it is what Delaware's saying, that's fine. We just need to know what it is. They're also real estate market, and just a little tidbit here. Real estate market in Harlem Township is doing well. There's not a lot for sale. When a home comes up for sale, it usually sells pretty quick. Also, another farm recently went into contract last week, so they're selling, and they're not selling to farmers. Not at these prices. So also the January, the National January Real Estate reported Just interesting that the nation is still 4.5 million housing units short. And the shortage is being exacerbated by the high interest costs. And and also there's shortage in rental units. And of course, the price of renting is high. Developers are a little slower right now because of the high interest and also building costs. So doing a survey locally, you take the new houses being built on speculation in Galena and Sunbury, it is hard to find a new house for under 400,000. And so consequently, when you start doing, if it's not affordable and the affordable standards, they're almost unaffordable. So that's where we're at. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, that was it.
Do you have any insight onto aspirations that Westerville has to come east across the reservoir?
Yes, there is. They've thrown at it, Mike and I. We're going like, so you're going to build a bridge, or what are you going to do? How are you going to get across the reservoir? They would need this is all hearsay. Or I don't want to say hearsay, wishful thinking. I don't know. They need Columbus to work with them on that. And last I heard, Columbus wasn't willing to work with them on that. And I don't know how you get across the waterway anyway. So they've thrown that out. They've thrown some other ideas out that I didn't think were workable, but they've got an army of attorneys. So, but the biggest thing would be Columbus.
Are you aware of Westerville making inquiries of Harlem residents?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And you can't stop them from making the inquiries. There again, they are a long, long way from getting anything accomplished, especially without Columbus's help. To do it on their own, I don't know, maybe they go to court. I don't know. That is just something that is way out there. Obviously, they're maybe trying to work something. I know there is a lot of talk in Columbus, and that also metropolitan parks are aware that at some point Columbus may bring metropolitan parks into the city of Columbus on our southern border. There's a lot of talk about that. You and I get different answers than what other people are getting, or at least what they say they're getting. So I don't know how fast that really is materializing. The thing that we noticed on our end is when Columbus asked, when the sewer tap gets done and we go to hook into it, I had showed everybody the space that Columbus wants to reserve for themselves to tap into that sewer for themselves, even though it's in Delaware County. They'll take it back out and go. So obviously they have something in mind. I don't know what.
Are you aware of any large-scale commercial or industrial projects that have their eyes on Harlem Township?
Yes.
Would you like to speak to that?
Rumor?
In glittering generality?
Yeah, Rumor, southeast corner. Mount Harlem, as we call it. Yeah. Also, there again, even Pete agreed with me. The south, well, not that Pete wasn't in on that. Southeast, as everybody should know, that New Albany is right across the street on South County Line Road. The other thing is north where Sunbury's at. In fact, their latest document to the residents explaining the Amazon park, the industrial park and everything, that they are going to work on that very diligently as far as getting the park, not just Amazon, but getting that park up and going. It's like Pete and I were talking about, there is land up there that they need to finish getting, that they will. It makes no sense that they haven't. So that industrial park's really gonna go pretty big also. But commercial, basically commercial, retail and office on the southeast, industrial park up north. I talked to, some of the residents from the northeast, big property owners up there. Because of utilities, nothing serious has happened yet. So that's where we're at. Doesn't mean somebody's not doing something else. Also, on a residential, light commercial basis, which I'm not allowed to say anything because of do not disclose yet. I need to get with the trustees, but there is a large entity coming into Harlem Township for development.
And do you mean residential, commercial, industrial? What do you mean by
Residential and the light retail that would go with it.
Okay.
But that's gonna take some discussions with us. And then also then after we have the discussions, I'll report to them and then they will probably not meet with you. So they reached out to me and we've been, talking. Basically, they're looking at the overlays, what have we done, where they're at, just general, but it's very large.
Good question. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Lindsay.
Hi there.
Hi.
Here's just a quick update of what's on the communications committee plate and what we've accomplished recently. We celebrated the printing and mailing of the first newsletter of 2025 at the end of January. And then to keep on a quarterly schedule, we would consider April as our next newsletter. However, we discussed at our recent meeting the need to be flexible to try to help with communications with all of our strategic planning coming out. So we'll just keep that in mind if there's anything that we need to put out in the newsletter. In addition, we'll be reaching out to departments end of February, early March for that quarterly newsletter. If anybody has anything you'd like to include. Then the next monthly email blast will be this coming Tuesday, February 25th. As of right now, we have this document from Holly. In addition, we'll have the video from the strategic planning input session. I have the video. It is my bad because I did leave on vacation immediately following the strategic planning input session, but I have it. And Ashley, I was hoping that we could hook up because due to password and two-step verification, I need to get with you to get that uploaded to YouTube. Then if anybody has anything besides that, though, that you think that this email blast would be a great opportunity, please get with me and get with the trustees because we have one coming up this Tuesday. Then we continue to talk at our meetings about social media postings for our Harlem Township government page to try to make that more active in addition to the public notices. And then finally, for our March committee meeting, we plan to open up the discussion with a live audit. We're going to pull the township website up on the TVs and do kind of an interactive audit of the township website because as we've talked about multiple times now, Ashley looked into the contract with Revise and which I believe is their name, Revise. Revise has a revision written into the contract where we can make some changes. So we'll have a report and then I'm going to get with Ashley about meeting with them and communicating those types of ideas that we have. And I can report any and all those when we have them. But that's our intention for our March meeting. And again, those meetings are open to the public. So if anybody has feedback that's been burning for the township website, we are taking it during that time.
And I did hear back from them and we have essentially small edit. So little things that will kind of make it more user friendly and just change up the look of it. And then next year, because it's by the halfway through the contract, by next year we can literally resurface the entire thing if we want.
Okay, that's good to know. We can keep that in mind in terms of prioritizing what we write down, sticking to more navigation, user friendliness right now, and then knowing that we can make a long-term plan for a freshened website.
Anybody have any questions?
Can you remind people when the March meeting is, please?
Yes, it will be on the second Tuesday of March at 6:30, which will be March 11th at 6:30 here in this room.
Lindsay, remind me how many people are on the communications committee?
There's approximately 7 or 8.
And is your vice chair seat still vacant?
Yes, the vice chair seat is still vacant. If anybody is interested in volunteering for our committee and having a vice chair position that would maybe carry a little bit extra responsibility in terms of just helping to execute some of the stuff, that is still open.
So a conversation I had with Holly following the community meeting a couple of Saturdays ago is we will do everything we can to communicate the progress and the steps and all the information shared in the strategic planning with the communication or with the community as much as possible. The facts of that reality are a lot of that will be digital. A lot of that'll be via email. A lot of that'll be social media, the community website, so on and so forth. You know, the mailers that come out quarterly. There's lots of information there, but I just can't think of a better way to be as informed as possible about the goings on Harlem Township, other than being on the communications committee.
Okay.
So would love to see some more involvement there as well. But thank you for everything you're doing, Lindsay. Your group is instrumental.
Yeah, they've been great. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll have an executive session here to close out the meeting, but before we do that, I will open the floor for any public comments. Yes, sir.
Dave Snyder, people in the road, speaking here as a citizen. As a member of the Park Planning Committee over the last 5-6 years, there was discussion on a number of occasions about the fate of the silos, the silo remains. And the discussions tried to find, you know, that balance between, is this an opportunity or is this folly? Talk about preserving it. And I want to thank you for providing that opportunity here for discussion. I thought the discussion was clear, succinct. It, I think, addressed the opportunities in a way that was meaningful. And I think we set the foundation for making a wise decision. And I want to express again my appreciation for the way that discussion was handled. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Hi, Steve Eisenbrown, 4909 Harlem Road. Just 3 quick things. One, can we get the agenda for these meetings published a day or 2 ahead of time online? So we have the ability to see what's coming up?
So I do post them the day before, day prior to the meeting.
Where are they? I couldn't find it.
It's on the website.
Okay, well, that's
on
fine.
Or on the trustee minutes.
Oh, okay, very
So it'll
good.
be whatever that next meeting is.
Okay. Number 2, I just want to thank you guys and with Jim's input for what I think is a thoughtful response on the 208 topic of finding a balance to maintain a peaceful, cooperative relationship with Galena, yet keeping our options open. So I think and I think the letter you're going to write, Adam, is exactly the right thing. So I know there was a lot of noise going around on that, and thank you for your thoughtfulness. And the last one is, given I haven't gotten a call from Holly, I guess I'm not on the strategic planning committee, but that's okay. But I do suggest you adopt a strong cadence on your activity. And so, you know, one of the things we did going back a couple of years ago on the original strategic planning committee was intentionally set meetings twice a month, because just, you know, things fall through the crack. If you've got the help of Crossroads, you can make a lot of progress in 2 or 3 weeks in between interchanges. So when you start talking about months and months, stuff just slips from my experience in business. So you got to keep a sharp point on this. And I guess my other comment or question is, and I'm assuming all of these planning committee meetings will be public.
So I want to address real quick just a difference in nomenclature there. What the Crossroads is working on forming right now is a steering committee.
I
It is
understand
not a
that.
strategic planning committee. This committee does not report to the trustees. It does not report to the board in any shape or form. We don't even know who's going to be on it. This is
Right.
purely a focus group, more or less, for Crossroads and their team to work with to make sure that the work that is done is in correlation to what this sample set of the community wants to see in Harlem Township.
Right. And when they physically meet, those will be public meetings?
Yes.
I think it's
Absolutely.
semantics and almost, I understand the difference.
Words matter, so I
But
want to make
yes,
sure we're
yes, they-
using the right ones.
Yes, those words do matter. Okay, that's it.
Thanks, Steve. Anything else? Okay, with that, I'll make a motion that the board goes into an executive session at 9:15 PM to consider the employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual. I would also invite Jim Steelsmith to the meeting. Anybody else on your end?
No.
Okay.
There's a portion.
All right. Move to return from executive session at 10:18 PM. Is there a second?
Second.
All the roll call, please, Ashley.
Holiday,
Aye.
Aye.
Passes. No more business from the board or the public. Would move to adjourn the meeting at 10:18 PM. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Like
You
there's
adjourn
two places to sign here.
on each one of them or just into? No, just.